Hello class, my name is Brandon Sanders and I will be presenting on the German occupation of France during World War II and the Underground Resistance. Alright, so a small look at exactly what went down and what we'll be talking about. So in May of 1940, Germany decided to invade France, and astonishingly, it only took them 6 weeks to overtake the region, which was a huge surprise for everyone because France had been established as having the most powerful armed presence in Europe, and everyone was surprised that they were taken down so quickly by German forces, especially considering how the Treaty of Versailles had limited their resources and their strength, militarily speaking. So with this surprise and fear, millions of French citizens fled to South France to escape Germans, and Adolf Hitler and Marshal Philippe Pétain in June of 1940, they signed an armistice which declared northern and western France as a German occupation zone. The remaining area, the south of France, was declared a free zone, and it was ruled by the WWII government, and which French government, and within their rule completely, allegedly. And there was actually a third part of French rule in England because Charles de Gaulle was leading the Free French forces as a government in exile. Now, why did Germany take over France? So Germany, recognizing the strategic value of France for their monetary value and their value in resources, gold, cattle, farmland, infrastructure, all of that. They knew that they needed that to defeat the USSR, and they knew they needed it if they would stand a chance against the rest of the forces that they would end up fighting against. So with that, they also got the Vichy government, which was essentially a puppet government under the guise of being French. It was pretty much an extension of Germany. The government gave anything that German forces demanded. So it was very clear that it was not a French government at all. It was more or less a puppet government. And the Vichy government willingly gave up many French and foreign Jews up to German forces to be put in concentration camps, as well as, on this photo on the right here, volunteered several of their soldiers to fight for the German cause. And life during German occupation is was pretty similar to what you might expect out of American wartime in these very early years. Women being left alone at home, taking care of the household and doing work and working jobs to keep their houses afloat and stuff. And men being off fighting, but these men didn't exactly have the choice. I mean, with enlistment in America, there wasn't much of a choice either. But these men were actually prisoners of war and were being sent to fight for the German cause rather than their own. And with this occupation, there was a scarcity of resources, fuel and food and any other number of necessities. And there became a popular demand in the black market, as you can see here on the right. And it was the main source of getting things in the area of occupation, as well as in the Vichy government. The French resistance, the Free Forces of France, were led by Charles de Gaulle, sorry, and sorry, I don't know what just happened. Charles de Gaulle led the Free Forces of France from England as a government exile, but the Communist Party of France, as well as French and Jewish Boy Scouts, they all worked as sort of spies in the government, gathering information and such, as well as helping Jewish people hide from German forces. Women also played a huge part in the war, but despite the fact that my picture shows these women carrying guns and coming out with such a commanding stature, their role was fairly secondary, and not many women were involved in actual armed resistance. And lastly, the reason why it was so interesting of a subject for me to do was this exact reason. After World War II and the end of the German occupation of France, Charles de Gaulle very much gave the impression that every French person was completely in with the resistance and completely resisting German occupation, when that really was not true at all. Um, as you can see on the left and the right, these propaganda posters, sorry, they were released by the WWII government as a way of supporting the German occupation. Over here on the right, they have Charles de Gaulle represented as a wolf trying to attack these two people in the bright sun planting a tree or plants. And plants symbolically mean life and hope. And it's essentially saying that the Free French forces, the forces that are fighting to free France from German occupation, are just completely evil and will kill you. These two middle photos, they're the type of France resistance that de Gaulle wanted people to see. This super prideful, super just against German occupation, very out there with their guns, ready to resist. But in reality, we have these two images on the left and the right. And in the top left corner, we have a woman having her hair forcefully cut. And that was actually a way of punishing the women who actively embraced German occupation, the ones who might have gotten married to German soldiers, the ones who might not have been a part of the resistance. They had their hair forcefully cut off in the streets. And there was I believe there was a religious implication for that. It was super shameful what was happening to them, and it was supposed to cause them shame, and that was their punishment. And here we have my sites sourced. And I believe that that is all I have to tell you. Thank you so much for viewing my presentation. If you'd like to know anything else about the subject, feel free to search it up. It's a very interesting part of France's history that was not spoken about for 50 years after the end of World War II, really. I had read that it hadn't become commonplace until 50 years after. It wasn't comfortable for people to talk about until 50 years after, which was truly interesting and remarkable to me. But thank you very much for viewing this, and have a wonderful day.